When distance and uncertainty threaten love, even the strongest heart can be shaken. Quang, injured and trapped in a stranger's home, struggles with jealousy and fear as he imagines Linda's ex-husband lurking, waiting for a chance to exploit his absence. Haunted by what-ifs and longing for the truth, he battles a storm of doubt, longing, and protective love, desperate to know if Linda remains faithful. Will he find reassurance, or will his worst fears come true? Join us as we dive into this gripping tale of love, suspense, and courage, and don't forget to subscribe for more heart-pounding stories. Quang sat quietly in the living room of his benefactor's house, the unfamiliar surroundings offering him little comfort. The soft hum of the city outside contrasted sharply with the turmoil inside his chest. His legs still throbbed painfully from the accident, a constant reminder of his vulnerability and the delay it had caused in returning home. But it wasn't the physical pain that weighed heaviest on him now. It was the gnawing unease that had taken root deep within his heart, a restless worry that seemed to grow with each passing minute. Sitting there, he tried to focus on the mundane, the gentle ticking of the clock on the wall, the muted chatter of the neighbors outside, but his mind refused to settle. The absence of Linda, though temporary, felt unbearable. Every familiar habit, every quiet evening they had shared, replayed in his mind, each memory amplifying his longing. Yet, beneath the longing, another, darker feeling stirred, a surge of jealousy that made his chest tighten and his pulse quicken. He had always trusted her, but trust alone was not enough to suppress the visions that kept invading his thoughts. Images of Linda's ex-husband flickered unbidden, the sly smirk, the opportunistic glint in his eyes, the way he had always lingered too long in their past encounters, waiting for the chance to exploit Quang's absence. The thought of him prowling around while Quang was immobilized, perhaps scheming, made his stomach twist. He tried to push it aside, reminding himself that Linda was strong, loyal, and clever. She had never once given him cause to doubt her. Yet, the longer he stayed in the quiet of this unfamiliar house, away from the world he knew and the woman he loved, the more the seeds of suspicion took root. What if this time was different? What if, in the long hours of separation, she allowed herself even a fleeting moment of weakness? Quang's mind conjured scenarios that made his heart clench, her hesitating when his calls went unanswered, the ex-husband's shadow looming too close, a smile forced from politeness or fear that might mask dangerous intentions. Every small sound made him startle, the rustle of leaves outside, the distant bark of a dog, the faint creak of floorboards above. Each noise seemed to carry hidden meaning, each silence a warning. He found himself rising from the chair and pacing, each step careful because of his injured leg, yet restless as though movement alone could chase away the gnawing fear. In his heart, he knew that anxiety and imagination were mingling dangerously, creating visions of betrayal that may not exist, yet felt as real as the pain in his leg. And yet, despite the turbulence of his thoughts, one truth remained unwavering. His desire to see Linda, to hear her voice, to confirm with his own eyes that she was safe and faithful. The distance between them, now compounded by his injury, made him painfully aware of how fragile and unpredictable life could be. In this strange house, surrounded by strangers whose kindness he could feel but never truly absorb, Quang's emotions churned, a volatile mix of love, worry, and jealousy. He longed to return home, to dissolve the imagined threats, and to reassure himself with the reality of Linda's presence. But until that moment came, he was trapped, left only with his racing thoughts and the gnawing fear that every quiet hour might carry unseen danger. Quang sank back into the chair, closing his eyes for a moment, trying to breathe through the tension. Yet even in stillness, he could not silence the questions that plagued him. What was the ex-husband doing now? Was Linda tempted, or at least wary, in his absence? And most of all, when would he finally be able to return, to dispel the shadows in his mind and see clearly the woman he loved? The waiting, the uncertainty, and the sharp edge of jealousy were almost unbearable, yet they were the only companions he had in that moment. As the minutes stretched into hours, Quang's mind refused to rest. Every thought seemed to circle back to the same tormenting question: what was Linda doing at that very moment? The quiet of the benefactor's house, which should have been a place of safety, now felt suffocating, as if the walls themselves were pressing in on him, amplifying his fears. He imagined her in their home, alone in the soft glow of the evening light, perhaps glancing at her phone, hoping for a message from him that never came. And then, just as quickly, the image twisted into something darker, her hesitating, unsure, feeling the absence of his voice and warmth, and then, maybe, opening the door to someone else. The thought of her ex-husband, lurking like a shadow, made his stomach knot. He could almost see the man, leaning against the edge of their doorway, pretending to be casual, pretending to be harmless, while quietly plotting, waiting for the perfect moment to take advantage of Quang's absence. Quang's fists clenched, nails biting into his palms, as every imagined scenario played out in vivid detail. Would Linda, after so many days of longing, finally relent to the comfort of familiarity, the false security of an old connection? His heart pounded at the mere possibility, each beat echoing the fear he was trying desperately to ignore. And yet, intertwined with the fear was a desperate, almost obsessive longing. He wanted to believe in her loyalty, in her steadfastness, in the love they had nurtured over time. He remembered the way she had smiled at him just days before, the warmth in her eyes, the subtle tenderness in every gesture that spoke louder than words ever could. But memory was cruel now. It reminded him not only of what was real but also of what could be lost. Quang's mind wandered, imagining conversations that might never happen, touches that might never be exchanged, and the silent battles she might be fighting within herself while he remained trapped miles away, immobile, powerless. Every small noise became a catalyst for panic. A soft thud from the kitchen, the faint scraping of a chair, even the rustle of the curtains in the wind, each sound was a potential threat, each silence a prelude to betrayal. He paced again, slower this time, mindful of his wounded leg, yet unable to quell the storm raging in his chest. The ex-husband's face seemed to flicker behind every shadow, a ghost haunting his thoughts, and with every imagined glance, every cunning smile, Quang felt a wave of desperation wash over him. He longed to be there, to protect, to reassure, to remind Linda without words that he was still hers, that his heart was unyielding despite distance and injury, but alongside the desperation came a gnawing uncertainty. He asked himself the questions he feared most: was Linda truly resisting? Was she feeling lonely, vulnerable, and perhaps drawn to the false security he imagined the ex-husband offering? The possibility, however slight, tormented him. He felt the sharp sting of jealousy, a bitter taste that neither reason nor logic could wash away. He hated that his mind could betray him so, conjuring images of his beloved in someone else's arms, yet he could not stop the visions from overwhelming him. Quang sank into a chair again, closing his eyes and pressing his fingers against his temples, trying to steady the chaotic thoughts. He had to remember, he had to trust, but the distance, the injury, and the silence combined to erode every ounce of confidence he tried to cling to. His love for Linda had always been fierce, but now it felt like both a shield and a torment, protecting him from despair yet exposing him to fear he could scarcely endure. The minutes stretched like hours, the hours like days, and all he could do was sit in that borrowed home, imagining every possible outcome, waiting for the moment he could finally return and see the truth with his own eyes, every scenario. Every fear, and every flicker of hope mingled into a single, unrelenting ache. Quang's heart ached not just for Linda's safety, but for the certainty he so desperately needed. He wanted proof that their love remained unbroken, that the shadows in his mind were merely shadows, and that when he finally walked back into their home, he would find her waiting, unwavering, faithful, and still entirely his. Until then, he was caught in a limbo of anxiety, longing, and jealousy, each emotion a reminder of just how powerless distance and circumstance could make a man who loved too deeply. Quang could no longer bear the stagnation of waiting. Every second spent in the benefactor's house, no matter how kindly it was offered, felt like a slow drip of time poisoning his mind. He rose unsteadily to his feet, wincing as his injured leg protested, yet refusing to stay still. He paced back and forth, each careful step punctuated by the rapid thump of his heart, a relentless drumbeat that mirrored the storm inside him. The thought of Linda, her warmth, her smile, the soft assurance in her voice, was both a comfort and a torment. He longed to see her, to touch her, to confirm with his own eyes that she was safe, yet the distance, the injury, and the uncertainty conspired against him. Turning each moment of anticipation into a test of his resolve, as he walked, his mind raced ahead to scenarios he dreaded imagining but could not avoid. Would she be nervous, hesitant, perhaps tempted by the familiarity of her ex-husband's presence? Each possibility twisted through his heart like a knife. He could picture the ex-husband standing just a little too close, offering empty words with an insidious charm, trying to fill the void left by Quang's absence. And for a fleeting, horrifying second, Quang felt the weight of helplessness crushing him. The thought that Linda, even for a moment, might falter in his absence, made his chest tighten and a sharp pang of jealousy rise like fire through his veins. Yet beneath the fear and the jealousy, there was a firmer, steadier current, a resolve born of love. Quang reminded himself that Linda was not weak, that her heart belonged to him, that their bond had been forged through trials far more testing than this. Every memory of her fidelity, every tender smile and glance they had shared, strengthened this conviction. But even conviction did little to quiet the torrent of what-ifs that stormed through his mind. What if she had been lonely? What if she had received comfort elsewhere, albeit temporarily? The questions gnawed at him, and the silence of the house seemed to mock him, echoing every anxious thought back in sharper, crueler tones. He paused, leaning against the wall, breathing in and out slowly, trying to harness the chaos. The longing in his chest was almost unbearable, a raw ache that pulsed in rhythm with the throbbing in his injured leg. His love for Linda had always been fierce, protective, and unwavering, yet now it was tested in ways that forced him to confront the fragility of distance, of absence, and of circumstance. Every imagined glance from her ex-husband, every imagined hesitation on her part, became a shadow hovering over his heart. Yet shadows, he knew, could not erase the light of truth, the truth he would soon see, the reality he longed to confirm. Quang's thoughts eventually turned to action. He could no longer wait passively. He would return, no matter the pain, no matter the difficulty of his leg, because to wait any longer was to allow fear and suspicion to claim a piece of his peace, and he would not let doubt take residence in his heart. He imagined opening the door to their home, stepping into the familiar warmth of the space that held their shared memories, and finally seeing Linda's face, free from imagined shadows, free from all the what-ifs that had haunted him. That vision alone propelled him forward, infusing him with a determination that seemed to override every ache and every fear, sitting briefly to collect himself. He allowed himself a single, deep breath. The storm inside him, though unrelenting, had a direction now, a purpose. He would confront his anxieties not with imagination, but with action. He would see Linda, hear her voice, and once and for all dispel the phantom threats conjured by absence and time. In his heart, he knew that love required both trust and courage, and that in this moment, courage meant moving forward, despite the unknowns, despite the pain, and despite the gnawing fear of what he might find. Rising once more, Quang felt a surge of determination. He would leave the safety of the benefactor's house, face the challenges of his injury, and return to the woman he loved. The thought of Linda's smile, her laughter, the warmth of her hand in his, pushed him onward, dissolving the lingering shadows of jealousy and fear. No imagined scenario could stand against the truth he would see with his own eyes, the reality of Linda's heart, and the love that had always, unwaveringly, been theirs. Until that moment, he would endure, he would hope, and he would prepare to reclaim what distance had tried to obscure, but could never destroy.